With Marvel Rivals Season 2.5 just around the corner, there are a ton of changes coming to a lot of the heroes we've been playing. And what that means, there's going to be a lot of changes to the current meta. And today I'm going to be going over some of the heroes or team compositions that I think are going to be meta in Season 2.5. Now, I was given early access so I could test all of the changes, so maybe this video can be helpful to see what's going to be going on in Season 2.5, maybe pick a new main or a new strategy to approach with. And one last thing, if you're new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? It's completely free and you're coming back anyways. It's literally one of the best ways to help out the channel, so might as well. With that out of the way, let's dive straight into the video.
So the first hero we have on my personal list is none other than the Punisher. Now you might be thinking, why the Punisher? He's receiving somewhat of a nerf with the infinite ammo removal. While yes, this is true to a certain extent, he is still receiving a buff to both his ultimate ability and his primary rifle. So the first buff that the Punisher is receiving is that they're reducing the movement slow fire rate of Final Judgment, which is his ultimate ability, from 20% to 10% when of course he's not firing, and from 40% to 30% when firing, meaning that he's going to be able to stay on pace with the rest of his team when trying to push up. So that's something that's super beneficial to Punisher. Following that, they're increasing his primary rifle's magazine capacity from 30 to 40 shots, and the single hit damage from 18 to 19, and they're slightly reducing the spread when firing. Now you might be wondering, Duck, how's this meta? You haven't told me anything that revolves around. Now I feel that Punisher is going to be meta mainly due to the fact that they're nerfing a lot of the dive heroes and dive overall, and we're seeing a meta shift from more dive centric heroes to more of a brawling comp, kind of that of Season 0. And after testing the Punisher changes in game, he definitely feels like a meta pick now, especially with the amount of damage he can do with his primary rifle while running people down. Now there's also another character that really enables Punisher, but more on that later. The second DPS hero that's going to be meta is a rather obvious one, and that's none other than Hawkeye. I mean, it's pretty insane. The character's already decently strong and he's just getting some outrageous buffs. Now again, the character was already decently strong, and with the nerfs to a majority of the dive heroes, he's going to be even stronger. So Hawkeye's seeing an increase in his base damage of his arrow from 32 damage to 34, which is pretty significant. They're increasing the projectile damage of blast arrow from 15 to 16, and they're increasing the spell field damage from 32 damage to 34, which is the AoE damage effect. He's also getting an increase in the maximum focus from 70 to 75, and increase the charging speed when aiming at an enemy from 100 a second to 108, and a charge fall off speed from 30 a second to 32. So overall, a pretty solid buff to Hawkeye. Now let's be honest, this character was already decently strong, especially in the right hands of someone that actually knows how to aim with Hawkeye. They could literally carry a game, but these changes are making him even more of a threat. Now not only that, with the buffs to both Doctor Strange and Magneto, these indirectly buff Hawkeye as well. And you might be wondering, how are these buffing Hawkeye? Well, they're both shield tanks, and since they're both getting buffs, they're probably going to be getting picked a lot more. Now in theory, this means that Hawkeye has a lot more mobile cover now. Instead of being behind some type of static cover, Hawkeye is going to be able to move around with Doctor Strange and his Magneto a lot freely now. And because we are going to a more brawly style comp, because we have Hawkeye playing medium to close range, it's going to actually be kind of crazy for this character, especially with the changes. And yes, Hela is going to be meta. They just gave her 2 more shots, so they buffed her. That's really about it for this character. Now I'm about to connect the dots with what I mentioned previously about the Punisher and what hero really enables him. And this hero also enables Hawkeye at the same time. Now this is more of a sleeper pick for a majority of the player base and other content creators and such, but I am a Storm believer, especially for this season. Now you might be thinking, why Storm? And that's perfectly fine. All they're doing is increasing dead damage output of a Mega Hurricane, which is their ultimate ability, from 150 damage a second to 160, and they're giving the Jeff team up to Storm as well, which is absolutely insane. But that's besides the point, even if you're not playing with the Jeff. I'm mainly talking about Storm because I feel that Storm is going to be able to enable the Punisher and both Hawkeye. Are you starting to understand where this kind of slots in? So Storm's Thunder or damaging AoE grants her allies a 8% damage increase, and this is a constant and a passive as well. But when you enhance Storm's Thunder, your allies now get a 12% instead of a 8% damage increase, which is actually insane. And I feel that a Hawkeye Storm or a Punisher Storm, you're going to start seeing this a lot in Season 2.5. Now, it might not be instantly, and people will take some time to understand just how powerful it actually is. I tested out in the early access build, and let me tell you, this combo is insane. Now, in this video, I'm not covering every single hero or every single meta. This is just what I think is going to be looking the best in Season 2.5. Whereas things
previously, like Res Comp or Hello Bucky, is still probably going to be meta. Now let's talk about our potential meta Vanguards for Season 2.5. Now the first one is a rather interesting one, and it's Doctor Strange. Now usually when you pick Doctor Strange, you use it to portal back to your objective, but the biggest change they did was remove the range damage falloff of Maelstrom of Madness, meaning you can essentially do 120 damage with max stats at 8 meters all the way to 1 meter, whereas previously the damage would fall off. Now I feel that Captain America is probably going to be meta, mainly due to the fact that we're swapping from a dive composition more into a brawl-like style. And because it's a more brawl-like style, having a Doctor Strange on your team can be very beneficial, especially with the ultimate Eye of Agamotto. Now, even though Doctor Strange can't necessarily one-shot through support ultimates anymore, I still feel that it's an incredible ultimate to completely turn the tide of a single battle. Now, I believe that Doctor Strange is going to be even more useful, especially when you have characters like the Punisher and Hawkeye sitting behind your shield while moving up behind cover. I think the synergy between those duelists and this Vanguard is very impactful and should definitely be looked at if you're trying to pick a character for Season 2.5 to play. Now, our other meta tank is probably more obvious, but of course it's going to be Magneto. Magneto didn't really receive any major changes between Season 2 and Season 2.5. However, they did increase the charging speed of his rings from 4 seconds a stack to 3 seconds a stack, which is his right click or secondary fire. This means you're going to be able to get fully charged stacks shot out more often than not, so in theory increasing your DPS as Magneto. So overall this can be seen as a buff. And with Hawkeye and Punisher more than likely running rampant in Season 2.5, having Magneto can be a significant counter to them. Pop a Meteor M for a split second, get a 100% charge and nuke a Punisher just like that. Or absorb all of Hawkeye's arrows, bubble your teammates. It's very good and very important you do this when you're playing Magneto, because just as easy as Magneto can somewhat counter both Hawkeye and the Punisher, he can be countered by those two as well. So understanding your thresholds with Meteor M is very impactful and very important. So for our third Vanguard, in my personal opinion, it's kind of split into a couple different heroes that I feel are on equal levels. First, we have Emma Frost. They increased the range of the telepathic pulse from 15.5 meters to 18 meters, so that's an increase to her primary attack in normal form. However, they decreased the shield value of Mind's Aegis from 500 to 400, and they increased the cooldown of Carbon Crush from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Now, this might not seem like a big change, but when you swap to Diamond form, you used to be able to instantly do a Carbon Crush and get the chokehold, and if you were to continuously spam it, right at the end of Diamond form, you would still be able to get off one more Carbon Crush. However, that's no longer the case. You can only get one Carbon Crush out, so that is somewhat of a big change. Following that, they decreased the hit damage of Crystal Kick from 50 damage to 40 and decreased the extra damage dealt when propelling the enemies into the wall from 100 to 90. Now, although these are some pretty big changes, I think overall Emma Frost is still a solid character, as again we're transitioning more from a dive comp to a brawl comp. Even though Emma Frost did do good against the dive comp, I think she will also do fine in the brawl comp, so having her on your team is perfectly fine. With that being said, because we did kind of nerf Emma Frost, Hulk can be played a little bit better now. Typically, if you were playing Hulk, you would jump into the enemy's team and you would immediately get grabbed by an Emma Frost. Now that she does a little bit less damage, you might be able to survive just a little bit longer in the enemy's backline, so Hulk can be a decent pick, and he still has to team up with Namor, so that's something to remember. Now for Groot, this is a little bit interesting. For Groot, they decreased the damage of the Fine Strike per hit from 70 to 65, which is his primary attack, and they increased the Ironwood Wall's cooldown from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. Now, it doesn't seem like a major change, but it kind of is. Having the Ironwood Wall on cooldown more often than not is going to be a little bit of a hindrance to this character, meaning your survivability goes down, the ability to wall enemies and allies off from one another also goes down. This character goes from just being able to spam walls whenever to actually needing somewhat of a brain. Now, these changes are pretty big, don't get me wrong. It does nerf him quite a bit, but I still believe that Groot's ultimate is still super strong, so you can still combo it with characters like Winter Soldier, Namor, Moon Knight, the list goes on and on. But are the trade-offs really worth it? You have to think about it, players are more than likely going to be playing the Punisher and Hawkeye, so maybe having or picking Groot might be not the best play. But of course, there's always risk-reward with certain characters and certain playstyles. But with all that said and done, the big Vanguards I would keep in mind are Magneto, Doctor Strange, Emma Frost, and Hulk mainly. Those are the characters you should be looking out for or looking to play come season 2.5. Again, this is just my recommendation. I'm not telling you to play these heroes. You can play whatever you want. It's completely up to you. I'm just giving you my own personal opinion and belief. Now, when it comes to strategists, our first and probably most picked strategist for season 2.5 is, of course, going to be Luna Snow. They buffed this character. Not really sure why. They really like this character. Maybe it's their poster child for Marvel Rivals, but they increased the light and dark ice healing amount and damage from 20 per round to 22. So basically, you do more damage as Luna and you're going to do more healing. Following that, they added a new effect to Absolute Zero, which is her freeze, now grants 50 bonus health per enemy hit, which is absolutely insane and helps her survive a little bit longer when she's getting dive, so that's something to keep in mind. Those two were buffs to the character. The only slight nerf to Luna Snow was they increased the energy cost of Fate of Both Worlds ultimate ability from 4,500 to 5,000, meaning it's going to take a little bit longer to build up your ultimate charge. Now, when I was testing it, it didn't feel like the biggest change in the world because they did increase the light and dark ice healing amount, so it means you're going to be able to build up your ult charge a little bit faster. So, I mean, it's still fine. This character is still probably the best strategist in the entire game. Especially with a lot of the other strategists, I would probably stick to playing Luna Snow as your main strategist. Even though it's a little bit more risky playing a Luna Snow into the Punisher or Hawkeye because they can melt you inside of your ultimate. So all you have to do is move around a little bit more when you're using your Fate of Both Worlds. Not the end of the world for Luna. Still a super solid, super strong strategist right now. And I think also being able to drop a damage boost for your Punisher or Hawkeye player is definitely going to be a little bit more rewarding for them. So for our second strategist, I'm actually going to be saying Loki. They didn't change anything about Loki from season 2 to season 2.5, which is a little bit surprising, but the character is still amazing. He's still probably one of, if not the best strategist in the game, on par with Luna Snow in my personal opinion. Again, nothing has changed with him. The ultimate, the runes, the clones, the invis, nothing's changed. So still the same Loki. Now for our third strategist, this is where things get a little bit interesting because we have the introduction of Ultron. Now, to be honest, to play Ultron, you're going to need 2 other strategists to get the full use of Ultron. Ultron's mainly there for dealing poke damage and keeping your backline alive. I think if you wanted to, you could run a Luna Snow, Ultron, and Loki and put the Snowflake and Ultron's Imperative Patch on a single teammate and make a super soldier flanking demon. Imagine a Snowflake and that Imperative Patch on a, say, a Black Panther or a Magic just absolutely harassing the enemy's backline. I feel like that could be amazing, but you do have to put all of your faith into that singular player. But I think the third meta strategist is actually going to be Jeff the Landshark, believe it or not. Now, yes, I know they did remove his diving capabilities. Everybody hates the change. I understand that. And I understand that strategists can both be a damage dealer or a healer. They don't have to just do one or the other. And Jeff kind of fit that role in the in-between. But because I'm just the messenger, I can't do anything about it. But Jeff the Landshark is actually an insane healer now. I can see a lot of team compositions surrounding Jeff and Storm, mainly for the fact that that team up is absolutely insane. It kind of sucks up every strategist ultimate except for Luna Snow's, which, I don't know, might be seen as a little bit strong, but understandably so. It's a little Sharknado, and we've all seen the movies, what happens. So if you're looking to climb high in season 2.5, I can't believe I'm going to say this, I recommend actually learning and picking up Jeff. Now, his healing capabilities and synergy with Storm make him a rather impressive and strong strategist now. Trust me, I've seen the healing capabilities of what the new Jeff can do, and let me tell you, I'm gonna be honest, it's kind of insane that he can heal and damage at the same time. But of course, that's just my personal opinion. Now, this was just a snapshot of what I think are some of the meta heroes coming to season 2.5. Of course, things can change from now when I'm uploading this to the actual release date if they change anything in between. So maybe this gives you a understanding of what you should be looking to maybe pick up or play, or maybe what you should be looking to ban. But anyways, hopefully you found this video helpful in any way, shape, or form. And if you did, make sure to hit that like button. It greatly helps out the video and the channel. And subscribe if you're new. We're going for an awesome goal for our subscribers, so might as well sub. But regardless, I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.